This is going to be part of the module 6, and it's the activity regarding working with AWS Elastic Beanstalk. The main idea about the Elastic Beanstalk is that it's a service that can be used by developers who don't want to create the infrastructure necessary to support the application that they want to deploy into the cloud. So pretty much what they need to do is with Elastic Beanstalk is they can bring their code in. The AWS will be able to provide the infrastructure necessary for this application. It can be a web application or a mobile application. And if the demand of that application grows, then AWS will be able to adjust to increase the resources for this application so that this application can work without any problems for any of the users who are using the application, especially if it's like many people who are accessing the application at the same time. And then once demand gets reduced, AWS also will be able to adjust the number of, uh, in this case, I believe we're going to be using EC2 instances in the background. So pretty much what is going to happen is that AWS Elastic Beanstalk, at first, what we're going to be provided with in this lab is we're going to be provided with an Elastic Beanstalk environment that won't contain an application yet. And then at some point, we will be able to bring our own code. And because of that, we will be able to deploy our application into that infrastructure that has been provisioned ahead of time for us in Elastic Beanstalk. So that's the main idea about this. So the overview of this activity provides you with an Amazon Web Services account where an AWS Elastic Beanstalk environment has been pre-created for you. You will deploy code to it and observe the AWS resources that make up the Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, so in this case, it says that it's going to take about 30 minutes to complete this lab. So I have already started the lab. As you can see, this is the AWS Management Console. So it's up and running. At this point, the first task that I need to do is task 1. It's accessing, I'm going to access the Elastic Beanstalk environment. And in this particular case, I'm already at step number 5. So what I need to do here is in the AWS Management Console, I need to go to Elastic Beanstalk. You can just type in Beanstalk and you will get there. So I click on it. So now in this page, it shows us all the environments that we have available here. So we can see we can see an environment that has been provided for us. And in this case, this environment, the name of the environment it has this name. And the health status of it is okay, which means that it has been completely provisioned. That's part in the health, because it's green, it's healthy. The column name, here is the name of the environment. We have the name of the application name here. Now the next thing I need to do is because this is going to be a web environment, I need to be able to access the URL that is related to this environment. So what I'm going to have to do is at the top of the page, I need to choose. So let me enter this environment and see if we can get the URL to it. And the URL is going to end in Elastic Beanstalk, as you can see, the one here at the top. Has the name Elastic Beanstalk. So if I copy this, or if I were to click on this arrow, it would take me there. So let's click on the link. It says status 404 not found. This is a client side error. What this means is that I try to access a certain web page on this environment, and that page does not exist. The reason why this doesn't exist is that we have been provided with the Beanstalk environment, but there is no application that's running in that environment. In other words, we need to get the code. At some point, we have to get the code and be able to have this code be the one that's going to be the basis for that application. Okay, so that's the main thing about it. So I just tested it. I got a error HTTP status 404, which means page not found. This is expected because the application server doesn't have an application running on it yet. Now I'm going to return to the AWS Beanstalk console. Let me actually go one step. I think I might have to go one step further. Let me go to environments. So this is this one, and what I need to do is I need to download a sample of the application that I'm going to need, and I'm going to click on the download button. This is part of tasks 2 in the lab instructions. It's called deploy a sample application to Elastic Beanstalk. Remember, I've mentioned in the past that if you're a developer and you don't want to bother with the implementation of the infrastructure that is going to support your application, you can simply bring your code, and you can bring your code as a zip file, and from it AWS will be able to either generate the infrastructure necessary to support your application so that users can access it, or in this particular case we have already the infrastructure ready, we just need to have the application. So I'm going to download the file, and the next thing that I'm going to do is back in the Beanstalk dashboard, choose upload and deploy. So let's go to the Beanstalk environment. Okay, so continue. What I need to do is I need to go back to the deployment environment, which is the one that I had there. It's going to be this one. So this is the environment, and it says step number 10. It says back in the Elastic Beanstalk dashboard for that particular environment, I click on the upload and deploy. So I'm going to click on the upload and deploy, and I need to choose the file called tomcat.zip file. Okay, so I'm going to go to let's see, it's my Y drive, and I need to find a file by the name .zip, which is tomcat, and I click this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the file, and I'm just going to deploy it. This is going to deploy the application, and it says it will take a minute or two for Elastic Beanstalk to update your environment and deploy the application. And then it says, note if you see a warning in the Elastic Beanstalk dashboard page that the instance profile is required to integrate with the AWS X-Ray service. By the way, the X-Ray service is used to, if you need to debug your application, that's what you can use it for. But it says that if I get a message regarding AWS X-Ray service being required to integrate with this application, that I can just ignore that warning. And then after, in step 13, after the deployment is complete, I'm going to choose again the URL that I chose before, and I'm going to refresh the screen, and we're going to see what that web application from the zip file that I uploaded into Elastic Beanstalk, what that application looks like. So we're going to wait a moment for that to happen. Okay, it has completed now. So this has been deployed. So what we can do is we can go back to this, click here, or this is the error that I got previously. So pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm just going to refresh this and see what happens. Okay, so this is the application that was included as part of the zip file. So in this case, if I click, I don't know, it seems to contain some documentation or something like that. Oh no, it takes us back to AWS. It's pointing to AWS resources, as you can see in the link that appears here. It's just an info, yeah. It points to articles in AWS, but this was the application that was deployed in. But this could have been a web application that you wanted to deploy, and by using Elastic Beanstalk, this application can scale to meet the demand of however many people need to access it. In this particular case, I believe there was only a certain number of EC2 instances. Only so many could potentially be deployed depending on the demand that is put on this application. But because it's only myself who is accessing the application, well, it's probably going to be either one instance or a couple of instances. Okay, so we have seen this. That was step 13. Checking that, making sure that it displays this message. Step number 14, back in the Elastic Beanstalk console, choose configuration pane. So I need to go to the configuration pane, which, well, we have this configuration here. Okay, I'm going to click on this one, configuration, the left pane. Okay, so this is the one. For example, in the instances row, so this is what makes up the application that we'll be using. You can see that there is software that was used. There are instances, there are EC2 instances that were used to provision this environment, but that was provisioned as part of Elastic Beanstalk. We also there was also a load balancer that was provisioned for us. There's monitoring being performed with CloudWatch metrics. We can see that there's a reference to a database, but we don't see anything there. But it says that I should check the EC2 instances. So what I'm going to do right now is let's take a look at what EC2 instances are being used in this particular environment. So let me going to hold down the shift key, so then I open another window. In this case, I'm taking a look at the just taking a look at the EC2 dashboard and taking a look at the instances that are running. Oh, 3 EC2 instances were deployed as part of this. Well, actually 2. These 2 belong to the Elastic Beanstalk deployment. So these 2 were created by that. This bastion host, it's separate. I don't think it's part of the Elastic Beanstalk. We can take a quick look at some of these. Usually, the tags that are associated with something created with Beanstalk are going to have a reference to it. Let's see if we can find some tags. We have a role. Let's see the instance type capacity. I'm looking for tags. I don't see them. Oh, the tags here they are. Okay. You can see AWS EV, Elastic Beanstalk. What this means is that this is part of the Elastic Beanstalk. You can see in this case AWS EV, Elastic Beanstalk Autoscaling group. So there are different this is part of that deployment that Beanstalk created to support our application. But it was so we just took a look at that. So that should take care of that. It also says that I should scroll down. Step number 15. It says that I should take a look at databases to see if there were any databases that were provisioned for this project. So if I click edit, let's see what we get. Invalid parameter. It doesn't seem that we provision any databases. The database service is RDS. So let me try to go to RDS in the event that it was a relational database that was provisioned. So let's take a quick look at that. Let me go back to this and the configuration. I was taking a look at this. Yeah, in this case, we can see when it comes to EC2 instance, you can see that the minimum number of EC2 instances that were going to be provisioned were 2. The maximum would have been 6. So this is the maximum capacity that this application would have supported, 6 EC2 instances. We saw the minimum amount, which is 2, because I'm putting a minimum amount of requests to this application. But when it comes to database, we see nothing here is blank, which means there's no database associated with this deployment. But we could have added a database in this particular case, but it wasn't necessary for this particular application. So in the code that was included in the application that I uploaded, there was no reference to creating a database. That's why there was no database created here. So now the next thing I need to do, this is going to be step 17, is in the left pane I need to choose monitoring. And right now I have chosen monitoring. We can take a look at healthy host count. So now the count of healthy hosts has come down to 1. The CPU utilization is 2.6, which is almost nothing. The latency in milliseconds is this. The requests that have been made have been 3. The maximum amount of data that has come in is 275, and the maximum amount of data that has been sent out is been 100 kilobytes. Remember, with AWS you pay for transfer out. So in this case, this would be, whenever you get billed, this would be part of that amount that AWS would add together. That's the main idea. So now I can take a look at the charts. This is probably when I, at some point when I made the connection. The latency seems to be increasing as time goes by the way. The request, you can see that it's in 1 right now. Let me see. If I refresh it again, there should be a change because I'm asking for that application again. But I don't know how long this is going to take. I can also open another tab where I could open this as a second tab. So just a moment. Okay, in this case I open a second tab. If I refresh this and if I refresh this, I'm causing the problem is that I think that at this point I'm not sure how often it's monitoring my resources every 1 minute. So we should see some requests that just happened, but I'm not sure how long it's going to take for us to view that information. The time range here we have is 3 hours. Because I recently started the application, I don't need 3 hours. Just 1 hour should be enough. You can see here the increase in the sum of the requests by count, and right now it got to 5. That's probably when I requested the data, and I guess that's pretty much it. So the request sum increased, and then the requests, the CPU utilization has gone down to the base level that we have here, and then the same with the max bytes out. It had a moment in which it went up. That was probably when I accessed it the first time, maybe. But that's the main idea about this. Now we're going to explore the AWS resource that support the application. So pretty much what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close these tabs. Now I just want to take a look at the resources. I believe that I have already done this, but I'm going to take a look at the EC2 instances that belong to this resource. This is going to be step number 18. So this is part of task 3. Explore the AWS resources that support your application. So as we can see here, we have 3 EC2 instances running. Let's see. Yeah, there are 3 instances running. So we can take a look at them. They contain the SAMP as part of their name. This is so these two are part of that Elastic Beanstalk deployment. And then I can also take a look at the security groups associated with this. If I want to take a look at the security group of one of these ones, pretty much what I need to do is I need to go to the security tab. Once I select one of these EC2 instances and click on security group associated with the selected EC2 instance, I click on this just to see what I get to. So there must have been, you can see again, AWS EV Elastic Beanstalk. Even the security name, everything that's being created as part of the Elastic Beanstalk has the AWS EB as part of the name for it. Okay, and then because we connected to the application was a web application, then we have port 80, or we're using the protocol network protocol HTTP to be able to access um, the, in this case we have something called the load balancer. That's what we're using. Let me see. I should be able to find Elastic load balancers here. In this particular case, this type of Elastic load balancer is going to be an application load balancer. So here we have it. Again, it starts with AWS, EV for Elastic Beanstalk, and so this is the Elastic load balancer. The main idea of the Elastic load balancer is that it allows us to be able to access the application by using a DNS name. In this case, the DNS name that is being used is this one. This is the DNS name of the application load balancer. And what the application load balancer does is every time that traffic comes into the application load balancer, is going to be sending it to the EC2 instances that have been provisioned by what's called an auto-scaling group. The auto-scaling group is what can contract or it can either contract if the demand decreases, or it can expand if it increases. But I can take a look at the auto-scaling group just to see what it has. But there must be one here. Again, it starts with AWS EB because it's and then so this auto-scaling group pretty much is the one that controls how to increase the number of EC2 instances. This is the one in charge of adding more EC2 instances, which are going to be a clone of which are going to contain a clone of that application. They're going to be able to serve requests, and they're going to be it's going to be like a clone. And if you ask what is the source of the clone is usually a launch template. That's what launch templates are used for. Let's see if there is one of those here. I believe that there is no launch template in this particular case, so they didn't use a launch template. Let me go back to the auto-scaling group, and I want to take a look at. Okay, so this is the auto-scaling group. The minimum capacity is 2. The desired capacity is 2. If the maximum is going to be 6. And okay, so that's part of that deployment. So we saw that that Elastic Beanstalk created multiple things. It created EC2 instances. It also a minimum. Well, first of all, so we're using EC2 instances. We're also using a load balancer, which is the entry point into your application. And every time that a request comes in, it's going to send it to whatever is in part of the auto-scaling group. So the first request comes, it goes to one of the EC2 instances. The second request comes in, it gets sent to the second one. So it's going to be doing most likely like a round robin. if I were to have the maximum amount, it's because I'm having a lot of traffic, but it would be sending any new incoming connection. It will be sending it to a different server, but it will be rotating between them in order to try to balance the load. And then so this is, like I said, any incoming traffic that comes into the application is going to be distributed among the EC2 instances that are part of the autoscaling group. And the autoscaling group is going to be in charge of creating and adding or removing EC2 instances depending on the demand that is being put on your application by anyone who's connecting to your application. But that's pretty much it. We also saw that in this case, it also created security groups for the application. We can see here the security group is AWS EB for Elastic Beanstalk, and it seems that the name that it's using is contains the word SAMP in all of the tags that it used to create that. Let's see if that is true. So this is the security group. Let's take a look if that is true of the EC2 instances. And so it also they have the SAMP name. Let's take a look at the application load balancer. Again, this is going to be used to distribute the load that's coming into our application. I don't think that we see the SAMP here for some reason. Let me see. We have tags. Well, here is a tag related to the Elastic Beanstalk environment name. Okay, but yeah, we can see it here in this particular case. And so that was the load balancer. Now let's take a look at the to the autoscaling group. It also has the AWS EB, but if I take a look at the tags, those tags would include the SAMP as part of it. Launch configuration. Yeah, okay. And then whenever you use a load balancer, the load balancer sends the traffic. In reality, it doesn't send it directly to the autoscaling group. It sends it to the target group. So we probably have a target group. Oh, there are no target groups. Okay, so we must be sending it directly to the autoscaling group somehow. But let me take a quick look. Actions, instances. Oh, we can see the instances here. Okay, so it seems that these ones are being added somehow. But in this case, we have these two that are part of the Elastic Beanstalk. These are part of these are the EC2 instances that are receiving the traffic, any incoming traffic that comes into the application. It's going to go to each one of these ones in a round robin fashion. Okay, so this is pretty much the end of the lab. We just need to take a look at the resources that were created to support the application using Elastic Beanstalk. The main idea about Elastic Beanstalk is if you're a developer and you don't need to worry about provisioning all the resources that are going to support your application, the best thing you can do is simply bring your code that is going to be in a programming language, and you can zip it, and then you can bring it into Elastic Beanstalk. You can create a deployment for Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, so this is the end of this lab.